Hello, everyone, and good morning. Welcome to our live feed update for July 23rd. I'm your host, Taran Armstrong, and I'm here today to update you on everything that happened yesterday on the Big Brother 27 live feeds. It was day 15 in the house, and there was a lot of movement, a lot of talking, a lot of campaigning, a lot of just general movement in the direction of new people working in different ways, basically. And with me to talk about it all is Cory. How you doing, Cory?
I'm doing well. I'm so excited. Yesterday is my exact day of feeds that I want to watch. Everyone rabid gaming the entire time. There's always one camera on some strategic talk. The thing about this cast, though, Taran, is you could tell very quickly which strategic talks matter and which ones don't. So I was very comfortable turning away the feeds when, I don't know, Keanu, for example, would walk in the room.
That's been the case since basically day 2 of the feeds.
The list is growing, though.
It's very fair. We will be talking about the day. However, there's also some other news that dropped yesterday, which is that we finally got some info on the Big Brother Unlocked episodes every other Friday. We got, look, it's Taylor and Derek are going to be hosting the Big Brother Unlocked show. That is going to be this Friday and then every other Friday after that. And Taylor's saying it's actually going to be good.
I know. What a shame. I was hoping for some clown show, terrible recap episode. Unfortunately, Taylor's going to leave her fingerprints on it and probably make a good product. So, I guess we're stuck with something good.
Yes, I did a stream yesterday. Taylor jumped on to talk about the show. If anyone is interested, over on my YouTube channel. It basically they're calling it like the sports center for Big Brother. So we'll see. We'll see. Listen, we'll see. Stay tuned. Stay tuned for more on Big Brother Unlocked. But let's get into the day for the day. Day 15. Like I said, a full day of campaigning and just like repositioning of pieces. Adrian is going to do a lot of talking over the course of the day, doing a lot of different one-on-ones. I think that a good way of starting the conversation today is kind of talking about the vote with Adrian, because that is the sort of proxy for the rest of the maneuvering going on. A lot of talk about the vote, but it's a little deeper this time in terms of trying to make more long-term decisions. So Jimmy is still hoping that Adrian goes. That is sort of Jimmy's preferable outcome, despite the fact that he made awful nominations in that regard. But he does have a conversation with Adrian where Adrian says to him, "Hey, just because you put me up does not mean I'm coming after you. I'm going after Keanu. That's the person I'm like kind of looking to target." Basically telling Jimmy everything that he wants to hear. And Jimmy is receptive to it. Later in the like heavy hitters conversation, Jimmy was a little less pressed to get Adrian out, but was still mostly on board with the idea of Adrian leaving, at least against even against Amy. But not a bad job there from Adrian.
No, I think Adrian's pitches today have a huge spectrum of really good to really bad, and he hits every single one of those like hash marks. The weird part with Jimmy, though, is I think Adrian thinks he's more influential than he actually is. Jimmy, I'm talking about, because he's the HOH, but he also doesn't have a vote, but he doesn't have the influence going into future weeks. In fact, there's some people looking at him as a target. So, like, in a weird way, despite the position of power he holds, Jimmy's not the most important person to campaign to whatsoever. But it's good to campaign to everyone, and I think this pitch was pretty solid.
Mm-hmm. Adrian also talks to Morgan, of course. Doesn't really have too much of an effect, but we know from yesterday, basically, just to quickly reset, Jimmy, the HOH, currently Adrian, Amy, and Will, the nominees. And the push maybe was or should have been Morgan and Mickey and Rachel all trying to keep Amy, all trying to potentially evict Adrian. However, yesterday, Mickey decided she actually would prefer to keep Adrian and get rid of Amy, but Will is still the safest on the block at the moment for basically everyone. I wish I could tell you that like Ava talked Mickey into this or that Adrian campaigned to Mickey and convinced her, but she had made up her mind prior to talking to either of them. I'm pretty sure it's just an anti-Amy sentiment in her mind. There's no other like tangible reason I think that I can come up with, but she really seems dead set on keeping Adrian. She talked to Morgan the night before about it. Morgan initially agreed with Mickey. However, today here on day 15, Morgan has kind of come back around to the idea that she really wants Adrian gone and is going to start kind of fighting Mickey over this, actually.
Yeah, and she should, because when Mickey's like, you can't target Morgan to Adrian, Adrian's like, really? Like, I really can't. So if I'm Morgan, I think it's absolutely the right call. I just think it's a difference of philosophy. First of all, Mickey has a closer relationship with Adrian. That's the most important thing. But putting that aside, Mickey wants to keep Adrian because Adrian can win competitions and evict people that Mickey wants to evict. Morgan does not want Adrian to be in the house because Adrian could win competitions and evict people that Morgan doesn't want him to evict. So like they both are having like just opposite conversations, opposite perspectives, but like they're close allies. So it's going to drag on and on and on and on. Ultimately, it feels like Morgan is pushing harder, but Mickey has more influence.
Yeah, I mean, that's basically, I mean, the thing is that it was always going to be a hard sell to begin with, that Mickey and Morgan in conjunction with Rachel and their allies were going to have to be pushing hard all together with Jimmy in order to make this vote happen anyway, because Adrian should have the votes just naturally. So the fact that Mickey has jumped off of that ship kills it. That's what we talked about yesterday. Morgan kind of knows this, but still is trying hard to make it work. And it just doesn't work without Mickey. She should really be focusing all of her effort on Mickey. She thinks she can try to convince people like Zach or Vince or others, but it's just not going to happen without Mickey. And so Mickey is fully like the block here, keeping Amy on the back foot. So yes, when Adrian talks to Mickey, and this is, I do feel like personally, it's a bit of a mistake from Mickey. I don't think she has nearly as much control over Adrian as she thinks she does. And considering the fact that Mickey is also spending much of the day talking about how she wants to target Zach pre-jury, that she doesn't want Zach out, or doesn't want Zach in the jury. The fact that she's keeping Adrian, who is perhaps one of Zach's closer allies at this point, and can win a bunch of competitions, is, I think, a big mistake, quite frankly.
I think it's a huge mistake. I do fear that Amy also loves Zach, though, and Will also loves Zach. So
that's also true.
So it's kind of a tough spot.
But Adrian, I think, is dangerous in the sense that he is very, very capable of winning a lot of competitions, which, of course, Amy is as well. But I think Adrian, the guy that trained for it and has certainly performed very well in competitions, is a big threat. And Amy also has been very skeptical of the, like, she does love Zach, but she's very skeptical of like the Vince Zach situation and all of that. So, which we'll talk about soon.
Yeah, I mean, just in general, I think it's so interesting between Mickey and Morgan because Mickey wants to do what Zach and Vince want, but Morgan is much closer to Zach and Vince seemingly, and Morgan doesn't want to target Zach, but she's working actively against them, and they have a long conversation disagreeing for like an hour later in the day. So like, I don't know why Mickey feels so strongly. I am slightly starting to doubt her strategic acumen a little bit after today. In this conversation with Adrian, she goes, Adrian, I need you to promise me that you're going to protect Ashley, myself, Will, Ava, and Morgan. You have to protect Morgan. And I'm like, okay, just lay out your final six, Mickey. Like,
yeah. Because she gets it out of him, like, who are you looking to put up on the block? And he's like, well, Rachel, maybe Morgan, stuff like that. And she's like, well, how about none of those people? How about you protect the list that Cory just said. And then also like not Rachel either, too. Like that's don't do Rachel. And he's like, okay.
So Adrian just has this game idea that doesn't work that he's sticking by. I'm just a loyal guy with integrity, and I'm going to do what I say I'm going to do, and people are going to trust me as a result of that. Now, everyone does think he's a loyal guy with integrity, but no one cares to keep him because of that. That doesn't matter to them, because if he's loyal against them, for example, if he says I'm targeting Morgan, I've always said I'm targeting Morgan. I think I have to target Morgan. If I'm Mickey, I'm like, thanks for your honesty. What does that do for me? And the answer is it does absolutely nothing. So like he hesitantly agrees to protect this group of people. But if I'm Adrian, I'm writing down every name that Mickey says. And if I'm Mickey, I wouldn't believe Adrian, at least when it comes to Morgan.
This house is truly, I think, like the pinnacle of inflexibility. Just like nobody has any amount of flexibility in the game. And of course, like Keanu is like the biggest example of that, where he is trying his absolute best to force like Rachel to be his enemy and Jimmy to be his friend, and Jimmy hates him and Rachel liked him but now hates him. and and in Keanu's mind it's just like that's the way it is. But even a player like Mickey is hearing straight from Adrian's mouth that he is not aligned with any of the people that she is aligned with or is trying to build a structure with, and is actively targeting some of them. And she's like, oh, that's not what I want you to be doing, though. Can you just promise me in a spot where you'll promise me anything because you need my vote that you'll do something different? And he's like, sure. And she's like, perfect. And then moves on. And it's like,
no, I can't stand these players, Taran. The one thing, and look, I love this cast. They're all playing super hard. The thing that I cannot get over, why are you telling a nominee you'll keep them in one scenario and not in another? It
that's the
does
other thing.
nothing for you. Like literally, okay, let's play this out. I'm Mickey. I want to keep Adrian against Amy, not against Will. Okay. Adrian asks me, do you want to keep me against Will? I would say yes. Because if the answer is no, you're going to vote him out anyways, and you're not going to have any repercussions. Are you going to keep me against Amy? Yes, that's the truth, and you'll cast your vote that way. Those are the two outcomes. Both of them don't have any problems with doing that, and yet it's just like the culture of the house that people are... Here, I guess, let me backtrack a little bit, Taran. Do you think it would be shady to someone like Adrian if you go and like basically tell him you're going to keep him over Will, even though it's pretty obvious that that's not the case from anyone?
I think it depends on the way you do it. Like if you're too cavalier, and Adrian and Will talk, and so there's a good chance that they'll compare notes. But if you maybe go to Adrian and you're like, listen, obviously things are not looking great for you against Will. I'm not sure the votes are there, but I really want to work with you. And if we can get the votes against Will, like I'm willing to maybe jump on board, but we have to keep that on the down low. Like, that's kind of, I think, like the way you probably do that. And would Adrian think that's shady? I don't think so. I think Adrian's going to be like, listen, I'll take whatever help I can get. I thought I was screwed against Will.
Yeah, I mean, look, no one's really losing any ground with their relationship with Adrian because everyone says they're keeping Will over him. So it's not like, a huge loss of opportunity cost or anything there. But someone can get ahead with Adrian if they're like, look, Adrian, I'll be honest. I feel like I have a better relationship with you than Will. I'm going to keep you. The votes don't seem to be there. But if we could figure something out, that would be great. The downside, maybe it would get to Will. Whoop-de-doo. What happens then? Like, it's fine.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, like, there's very little incentive for Adrian to rat that phrasing out to Will now. He might later, but like,
yeah,
what do you, especially when it's Will, it's like whatever, like it's not that big of a deal. But yeah, I completely agree. The thing about all of this is that while she's saying all the stuff that we're talking about her saying, like, hey, I want you to keep these 6 people safe. Don't do what you said you were going to do. I'm going to need you to promise me that so that you have my vote. That's her vote against Amy, and she's already said to him, I'm not voting you to stay against Will. And it's like, that's a lot to promise for one of the 2 scenarios.
Yeah, and look, the reason why I think Adrian is not fine with it, but seems more fine than he should be, is because no one thinks Adrian, or Amy rather, can win the blockbuster. So I think he's almost given up against Will. Like he always like leads off his campaigns with, look, I understand the Will thing is looking tough, but the vote against Amy, if it ends up being Adrian and Will, there's not a conversation for eviction night. Like as of right now, that vote is, would it be unanimous? I think it would be.
I could see like
Maybe
Keanu and Kelly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He'll get a couple.
And honestly, who knows what Riley does? But yeah, it should be Will should be a lock to stay in any scenario at this moment. So Zach, of course, talks with Adrian, but the conversation itself isn't super important. It's really just the fact that Zach is a lock for Adrian to stay in any scenario. Actually, Zach would prefer Adrian stay over Will. He won't vote that way, or might not vote that way, if he knows that the votes aren't there, and he does know that the votes aren't there. But he is probably one of Adrian's most firm sort of advocates. He really thinks that Adrian is important to keep in the game as a shield. Now, the funny thing is that he's using that argument with other people as a reason to keep Adrian. I think the only person that argument applies to is Zach. So I don't think it's a great argument for anyone else. But it's quite frankly not working on anyone else. But it is what Zach thinks of Adrian himself, and it's why he wants Adrian around.
Yeah, I mean, it's just what you said in regards to like Mickey's decision making. Zach is so desperate to keep Adrian as a number. Zach and Mickey seem to be these two, like, I don't know if it's Cold War yet. They seem like they're like building up their arms to go against each other. But Mickey is also trying to save Adrian for Zach. So like for Zach, this could not be working out better. Of course, every time with Zach, I like his strategic conversations, but I just wonder how much meat there is on the bone. And last week, I don't think it was a great sign in terms of how that vote went and what side he was on. So, like, this week, if he's trying to keep Adrian, he better keep Adrian. Otherwise, he's just a nice dude with a good social game.
Yeah, and I mean, that is the thing, right? Like, he's theoretically getting his way this week, but only because I think Mickey is kind of tripping over herself. If Mickey wasn't making this mistake, I'm not sure Zach would succeed. Not to mention the fact that, like, he hasn't fully succeeded. Like, if Amy does win the blockbuster, Adrian is leaving. So he hasn't been able to sway that vote, in part because Mickey is firmly on Will's side there.
Yeah, and he's getting more and more linked to Vince. Zach and Vince are like almost a duo in the house, which all of a sudden Zach and Vince as a duo is terrifying in a way. Like, oh, big, harmless, handsome Zach isn't. So like he's got, I'm on Zach watch. He's got a lot of longevity. He's not in danger. No one's really targeting him except low-key Mickey. But I'm a little worried. Like, I'm doubting his game ability just a little bit more than I was yesterday.
Yeah, on the stock watch on Monday night, we had 4 people that were like in the like solidly positive rating. It was Vince, Zach, Mickey, and oh geez.
Was that Ava?
Ava. And to be fair, we also had Rachel up there to some degree, but she was the lowest of them. Or no, she wasn't. Vince was. Ashley is calling exactly those 4 people out as the 4 front runners. And what's funny is that like, not that they have all tanked, but like this house is really like against having anybody be a solid front runner. Like all of the front runners have started to pull back a little bit in terms of their actual equity. Like Mickey's kind of falling down a little bit. Morgan is falling. Vince is falling. Zach is falling. Ava's holding strong. Ava's the only person who I think has not taken hits over the course of the last couple of days. But it's largely because nobody has formed any kind of, and I keep saying it, but like there's no structure here. People have continued to fail at forming any kind of structure, and they're playing like they do have structure. Like they're like the idea of shields or of like, hey, you know, we should keep somebody who's good at competitions around because that's somehow good. That only works if you have a solid structure in place. When it's every man for himself, like Adrian should be gone every day of the week. But you know, this is kind of the way they're playing.
I feel like I'm learning more about myself as a Big Brother fan. You know, we always hate when it's just rigid alliances trying to pick each other off. I kind of miss them, Taran. Like, Like, it's a little too fluid. I like having a structure so people can tear down that structure. There's just nothing to tear down. We have these two very loose sides, and everyone's doing what they want. But the problem is, what they want doesn't always align with their or their allies' interests. But I guess they don't have allies because there's not really alliances. I just find it very difficult to watch. And what matters more to me is like the 4 or 5 key people's conversations. And that's how I dictate where the house is at.
Yeah, no, I think you're onto something there. I think that like there's a balance to strike, and the correct balance is people build structures and then other people tear them down. That's the meat of Big Brother. I think this is something Survivor sometimes fails at, is that like Survivor introduced so many other variables to prevent big alliances that you get seasons like Game Changers or like the new era meta sometimes where it's just too fluid and nothing is ever locked in and it's just like cut down the tallest head. And now that we have the blockbuster twist, I think it is influencing and preventing these big alliances from forming as much, at least right now. But it is now there's nothing to overthrow at the moment. But I'm not quite sold it's a bad thing yet. It does just make it a little difficult to follow, which is why the updates have been so, I think, weirdly framed. But like, I think that what's exciting right now is that they're moving toward more of a structure. And right now it's sort of been like, we start to build and then it gets killed right away. And it doesn't ever actually take hold yet. But it's still pretty fun.
Yeah, I don't think there's going to be one this season. Look, there'll be alliances, of course, but I don't think we ever get like the 5-6 person majority that is relatively solid. I think once Keanu and Kelly leave and people stop having the easy answer of who I'm nominating, who I'm targeting, even Catherine put her in that mix, then I think lines will have to be drawn and maybe they'll have like more meaningful allegiances at that point. But until then, like, everyone's working together because everyone's targeting Keanu and everyone's targeting Kelly. So there's really no need for people to draw lines in the sand.
Mm-hmm. And also it's the sort of thing where like, 5 weeks from now, we're going to be pining for the time that there wasn't a 5-personal alliance full of all the rest of the comp beasts wrecking the rest of the game. But, that's how things go.
When Ashley's Angels are the final 6.
All right. Well, we'll talk about Ashley soon. Obviously, like with the rest of the votes, like Ava, of course, is happy to evict Amy over Adrian, but she is Will over Adrian. Vince wants Amy out. Will wants Adrian to stay over Amy. And Keanu and Kelly are both also votes for Adrian to stay over Amy. They, who really knows what they would do? Theoretically, they should be votes for Adrian over Will also, but you just never fully know. Not that it even really matters anyway. But that kind of brings us to, so what that means is, as I mentioned before, Adrian should be staying against Amy. But we do have to talk about Lauren and Catherine because they have, there's been this weird thing happening. Jimmy, when he decided to nominate Amy and Will, really pissed off Mickey and Morgan. Mickey and Morgan started like arguing against Jimmy. And in the meantime, he started finding people that would agree with him, like Catherine and Lauren. And so this kind of sparked a rivalry between Catherine and Lauren and Mickey and Morgan. And we talked about this the other night that like, Jimmy, while Catherine and Lauren were in his HOH room, had like Morgan and then Mickey come in and was like questioning them in front of Lauren and Catherine. And they were like, well, we don't agree with these nominations. And there was all this kind of tension that was brewing. Jimmy leaked to Catherine that Morgan suggested Riley as the person that he should be putting up. Catherine then told that to Riley, who now wants to behead Morgan. And Catherine, who is now like really getting further and further upset with Morgan and subsequently Mickey, and can sort of see now that there's a lot of tension brewing between them. And last night she has this conversation with Lauren. She's basically like, I'm done with this whole women thing. Screw all of the women except for Kelly. She's fine.
Which is a different perspective than most people in the household. What I really enjoy about Catherine is like simultaneously as she's turning on all the women, everyone's turning on her. Like everyone's on the same page about this dynamic. Catherine is absolutely right to be targeting these people because they cannot, say a sentence without mentioning Catherine's name. Granted, Catherine, bit of a shit talker herself, so it kind of goes both ways. But I will say, like next week, I think everyone's going to be making a mistake targeting Keanu and Kelly. Like Lauren and specifically Catherine really should be going over the people she's saying, and Mickey and Morgan. I make a deal with Keanu and go after Lauren and Catherine and maybe Jimmy if that's the direction you want to head. So like
that's what they wanted to do, but Keanu refuses to work with Morgan, unfortunately for them.
Yeah. I don't have analysis. What do you want from me? Like, I don't...
No, because Cory, that's exactly where my head goes too. I'm like, because I always try to look at like where is just like the overall pathing for these things, and it makes so much sense that Mickey and Morgan would team up with Keanu because Jimmy still hates Keanu, and it makes sense to use Keanu against Jimmy and Catherine and all of those people. But unfortunately, Keanu is just so stuck. They cannot get to him no matter what they do.
Well, I think Keanu's an actions speak louder than words guy, right? Like he'll never believe Jimmy, but then once him and Jimmy are talking forever and Keanu's off the block and Jimmy's talking about targeting, really, after Keanu manipulates Jimmy into targeting Will, of course. So maybe that's the way you deal with Keanu. You let Keanu manipulate you, and then you'll be okay in his books.
Is Keanu very much actions over words? As, for instance, when Jimmy nominates him, he thinks that Jimmy is one of his closer allies.
Taran, get over yourself. That was then. Here is now. Okay. Jesus.
So yes. So basically, what's happening? Catherine is trying to talk Lauren into this too, who seems to be on board as well. Lauren's like, you know what? I agree with you. Like, screw these people. It's Rachel and Morgan and Mickey and Amy and Ashley. They all suck. Jimmy's kind of with them though, isn't he? and Catherine's like, I don't think so. I can tell when Jimmy's lying. When we're together and he's lying to somebody else, I can tell that it's different. And it's not just that I know that he's lying. It's also just obvious to me. So I know he's not lying to me. And Lauren's like, I don't know. He seems kind of close to Morgan though. And then, I kid you not, Jimmy comes into the room and they start doing their anti-Morgan spiel. And Jimmy's like, whoa, Morgan's not coming for you guys. You should chill on Morgan. I don't think you should be making targets of yourself.
What I like about Jimmy is like Heisem if Heisem was less Heisem-y. Like, there's some things that are just quintessentially Heisem. Jimmy doesn't have those things. But like, he's HOH, and he's theoretically targeting people that his alliance should be fine with-ish, give or take Amy. And yet all of his allies are turning against him. And I don't think Jimmy, correct me if I'm wrong, has really any idea there's much movement against him.
No, he does not know. He thinks it's still only Keanu, basically. And to be fair to him, the movement against Jimmy has cooled because of the Catherine situation. That they are a little more concerned about Catherine, and then now they're also starting to get a little concerned about Vince. And so, it's not quite as anti-Jimmy as it was before. And part of that is that they have convinced him to take out Adrian. And so they're not as like there was a conversation where like he was trying to say like, yeah, we should definitely take out Adrian over Amy. It would suck if Amy left. And Rachel was like, well, that's why you shouldn't have put him up. And he's like, you've made that clear. That opinion, I get it. But yeah, Jimmy sort of pulling himself out of the fire weirdly by putting himself on the wrong side of the vote.
It's kind of what he did last week, right? Like, why is he keeping Zay again? What is this whole thing about? And then he flips his vote and he's back with his allies again. So like, it just takes Jimmy a while to get to the right conclusion. And I will push back a little bit that he's safer than he was.
Yeah.
But if Catherine's the target, I think he's on the block. He almost has to be, especially if like a Keanu or a Kelly comes off, because the perception is almost like Lauren and Catherine are tight, but we kind of like Lauren. Catherine and Jimmy, they're really tight. And mostly it's because Jimmy keeps talking about how much he loves Catherine and how Catherine would be his type in a different world and all these kinds of different things. So like with the blockbuster, with a veto, that is not a safe spot for Jimmy being that big of a threat, but like better than yesterday, I guess.
Yeah. I would agree with that. All right. Well, okay. One final thing on Catherine and Lauren. They did mention that they might want to work with Keanu and Kelly. That they actually feel like Kelly is not a problem for them at all. In fact, Kelly's probably going after the people they would want to go after. So they have no reason to target Kelly. And so, you know, I think in their minds, they're kind of thinking maybe we can make a side of the house that is basically them, Kelly, most of the men, and then be against the women. And I don't think it's going to work out for them that way. But the fact that they are leaning in this direction and that they might start pushing in that direction does provide a little bit of, pull to the push that's going on elsewhere. Ashley, of course, we have to be on Ashley watch because she's all over the place all the time. As we know, Mickey and Morgan are the best things to ever happen to Ashley in her entire Big Brother career. Because if not for them, like basically them and Rachel, like nobody would ever even speak to Ashley. So of course, those are like three of the people that Ashley hates the most and wants out. However, Mickey and Morgan want to include Ashley in the new big alliance that they are trying to form. And they also want her in the core of that alliance. And this is a miracle for her, quite frankly. However, she is, of course, doing her absolute best to make sure that it does not work by consistently going around the house today talking about Mickey and Morgan as big threats that can't be trusted, talking about how she suspects that Morgan is in a secret alliance with Vince and Zach because they meet every night and they talk, and that, you know, all of these people are people that should be looked out for and that you should, you know, not trust and be careful of. And she's talking about this to people like Adrian. Adrian, the guy on the block, the guy that's close to a lot of those people. Okay. She's talking about this to Will, also on the block. She's talking about this to Kelly. Yeah. To Kelly?
Well, they're tight, right? Are they? Ashley is very quickly becoming my favorite house guest to watch. It's a full 180. I was not enjoying her at the start. She's my favorite. I think just a flash to that Adrian conversation for a second. Adrian's like, I would hope that I'd have your vote. Just the no self-awareness Ashley goes, either way, it was nice to have met you. I think gives him like a farewell handshake. I'm like, she's planning on keeping him against not really. But what I'm really enjoying about Ashley's game is like, okay, let me thought exercise, Taran. Who do you think Ashley's dream like final four is? Like, who does she actually? Yes, that's my answer too. It's like, I think it's like Zay. I literally am looking at the names. I can't find one that makes sense based on her actions. I haven't heard her talk about Will. Okay.
I mean, genuinely, I think that if, like, because she has tried very hard to work with Zach, and I think partially, like, why she is talking about Zach now is that, like, Zach hates her. Zach really hates her. We'll get to that. But she really thinks she can work with Zach. I think that when she's talking about people being problems, she's talking about Morgan and Vince because they're too linked to Zach. And I think in her mind, she would love to work with Zach. I think, yeah, maybe even Keanu would be on that list. Like,
I love it. I mean, it was Zach, Keanu, Ashley. And to be honest, even though she talks bad about him, I swear Ashley's talked more with Vince than like anyone else in the house. So maybe it's Ashley and the boys against the rest of the girls. That was the Kelly confessional. Maybe that's perhaps
what we got. So she's all over the place doing this. And this is, again, the paradox of Ashley in that she did list four of the top contenders right now, four of the people that should be you should be looking out for. But she, when it comes to like her relationship with them and her like status with them, is completely like lost. And so she's saying all these things. She says them to Kelly. Kelly, of course, runs it straight to Vince, who runs it straight to Zach and says, hey, Zach, apparently Ashley's telling Kelly that we are in a secret alliance with Morgan and that we are like threats to win the game and that we should be targeted. And Zach is just like, freaking Ashley. I knew it. I hate her. I'm going to make her life a living hell in this house. We cannot be in an alliance with Ashley. This whole thing that they're trying to build, it's not going to happen if Ashley's in it. We are not on board. We need to tell Morgan about this so that we can kick her out of this group. And so they pull Morgan in and they say, Morgan, you're never going to guess what Ashley's saying. Ashley's saying that we're in a secret alliance and that we can't be trusted. And Morgan says, we want Adrian out, though, right?
It's just to backtrack a little bit. It's like Zach is like, she keeps saying that I stay up late and eat cereal with Vince. It's not even true. Like, but here's the thing, right? Zach is correct to be targeting Ashley because based on what Ashley's saying, you'd think Ashley would be targeting Zach, even though she's not. And again, like Morgan, one of my other favorite house guests to watch, she goes in conversations with an agenda and nothing else matters. She doesn't care. I think she's almost, and this is me being generous to Morgan, just accepted that Ashley is what she is as a game player and just doesn't take it that seriously.
Oh, I don't even think it's that like conscious, to be honest. I think that like I think she genuinely like didn't even really fully take in what they said. Like she does not realize how anti her Ashley is. And again, I think it just speaks to the inflexibility. She is so set on her agenda that she is not taking in new information that would potentially change some of her plans.
Okay, this again, no analysis here. This is a read. I'm calling Ashley's bluff. I think she's working with Morgan and Rachel and Mickey and all of that. I think that's just how this season's going to go, the direction she's going to head in. I can't make sense of her statements. I don't want to. Don't ask a follow-up to me, Taran. But like, sorry, go ahead.
Well, she has no other choice. There's nobody else to work with that would want to work with her. Those are the only people that want to work with her.
Well, okay. She had a great reason for wanting Amy out. This is the weird thing with, I'm always hesitant when people say she had great reads. I'm like, okay, what does that mean though in the context of the actual game? Like, I don't care about your reads if you didn't do anything about them. But I think she has a really good read on why Amy has to stay because she correctly identifies if people always say Amy's taking up a spot on the block. That's great for us. It's not really great for us if she stays every week and you're getting evicted next to her. But Ashley correctly identifies if Amy's gone, that's my job. I'm going to be the one sitting on the block every single week, probably getting saved due to nothing I'm doing. Like, so she is right to wanting to keep Amy. And when Morgan's agreeing with her, it's Morgan, Mickey, and Ashley. Ashley just says correct after every single statement that Morgan makes. And it's like, it's not even every statement. It's every like subject and then correct. Like everyone gets its own correct. It's like, I think we should, I think we should keep, yeah. So I think it makes a lot of sense for us to keep Amy. Correct. Okay. Yeah. And I think it's going to be good to drag her correct literally the entire time. And this is a nitpick. T-Core was is way more effective than correct. It just is. Correct is so much more like, stop it. But I love Ashley. I think she's been fun. And these three's dynamic, specifically her, Mickey, and Morgan. I was going to say, like, this dam is going to break at some point. I don't think it will. I think they're just kind of going to learn how to deal with Ashley, and it's going to be fine until Ashley probably makes, like, the final 5.
Well, here's the problem, I think. If Ashley ever wins HOH, that's when things could go disastrously, because that's when the people who don't like Ashley now have a reason to pretend to like Ashley. And if she's like, then they might be like, Ashley, Morgan sucks, doesn't she? And we actually love you, actually. And she might be, yeah, let's make an alliance and take out Morgan. Then I'm going to make a big move. Whereas if she's never in power, those people never have a reason to try to like win her over, at least for the short term. And she really doesn't have any other options.
It's just people are going to have so much ammunition against someone like Zach in regards to Ashley. And I could see Ashley being the type of person to just ignore it, right? And I could also see people not wanting to spell Zach's business. So like there's a lot of barriers, but like she's like that weird type of player where I don't think she should be in power. That would be bad for her. But she needs power because she could go home any given week. So like I'm not like if I'm Ashley, I'm not throwing things. I'm just gonna win HOH and hopefully come to some okay conclusions.
All right. Well, of course, Morgan does try to convince Zach and Vince to keep or to take out Adrian. They're not budging though on this issue. So that's not going to work. In the meantime, we did this. This is a funny scene. We saw Vince, Keanu, and Riley, who have an alliance that we've talked about before. They call themselves the Unexpendables. And they have a meeting of the minds as though they are Chilltown, as quite frankly, as though they are even Shelltown at this point. And Keanu, this is when Keanu is like, yeah, so luckily I was able to talk Jimmy into nominating Will this week. And obviously we're going to want Adrian to stay. It's wild how many different pockets of people in the house all want Adrian to stay, and he really only benefits like a couple of people. I wish I could credit Adrian for it, but it's really, from what I've seen, just people talking themselves into it. Although I will give him credit for convincing Keanu, because he doesn't like Keanu, but Keanu thinks he likes him. So kudos to Adrian for that one. And so yeah, they're doing, and this is Riley's like they're talking about Morgan and them, and like, oh yeah, Morgan does suck. I know this too now because I am Riley and I've heard it from Catherine. And Keanu's like, yeah, Morgan, her and Rachel, they're the ones that cause everything. Yeah, and Vince is standing there like, yes, I agree.
It's always a problem when you're a 3-person alliance. Vince is by far the best player, and it's not even comparable. Like he's on a different plane, and weirdly, Riley's probably on a different plane than Keanu. Like it really is a huge steps up the entire time. All the while, they're having a strategic conversation. Kelly's involved as well on the balcony, just like
oh my God. Yeah, we need
yelling
to talk
down
about
her thoughts.
Yeah. We also, it's a similar scene, but honestly, even funnier. Kelly up on the balcony, Riley in the hammock. Now, if you don't know, the balcony and the hammock, not that close.
No.
Kind of on different sides of that big long wall. And so they're having a conversation. You might think like, oh yeah, they're having a conversation. Maybe like trying to just like pass messages to each other, probably not being too open with what they're saying. No, it's hey, so Riley, how much do you hate Morgan? Oh, I hate her. She's a snake. Yeah, Morgan sucks so much. Oh my God. I can't believe what she was trying to do with Catherine. Have you heard about that? Oh my God. I'm taking her out first chance I get. Oh man, I can't believe what Morgan's. Hi, Morgan. How you doing?
It's like, first of all, the pretending after the first, I don't think Morgan heard anything. And that's a miracle because I swear I heard it. I'm in Nashville. Like that voice carries. But for Kelly and Riley, if every one of their strategic conversations were caught, I don't think it matters. Like what do they have to spell? It's fine.
Yeah, like believe me, you can watch this. The clips out there. You can watch this and you still won't fully believe that it actually happened. Like you'll be like somehow, some way, surely there were some extenuating circumstances.
Well, does this crack, Taran, the top 10 most questionable things Kelly's done on the feed strategically? No. Is it top 5 for Riley? Maybe pushing that 5 spot? Like for these two, I would say
done 5 things.
Yeah, his my favorite Riley move was moping the entire day of noms to avoid the block. That's pretty ingenious. But like between the two of them, nothing can surprise me, especially with Kelly. Like this is good move by Kelly here relative to the rest of her stuff.
Riley does have another feelings dump on Catherine, saying he's never felt this way about a girl before ever.
Yeah. I don't know. I'm giving more credence to some of these Facebook theories, but I'll keep those to myself.
So there is a heavy hitters meeting. That the fact that this alliance even pretends to still exist is wild to me, but they do have a meeting. Vince is not there. Rachel shows up to the meeting dressed as she describes, I'm dressed for a funeral because I already know you guys are burying my friend.
She's dressed for the episode, Taran. She's smart enough to know this group of 5 people. Did they announce heavy hitters or introduce heavy hitters on the episodes
They
yet?
did, yeah.
Yeah, so she knows exactly what she's doing. She's looking the part. But like this group, so really, just to remind who's in heavy hitters, you got Jimmy and Rachel, who really have nothing to do with some of these other people in the room, and Jimmy and Rachel don't really have anything to do with each other at this point either. So like this collection of people started off as BS, and the BS is growing with every given day, and now it's like this collection of people has nothing in common.
Nothing. They are like on completely different corners. If this alliance actually was working together, they would be steamrolling the game.
Tara,
But
do you know
they
how sad
have
it is?
different agendas.
Do you know how sad it is that like these people have nothing to do with each other? They have no relationships, no common goals, and they still all come together to be like, I don't think Riley can be part of this alliance.
They did officially kick him out.
It's like, what does Riley have that disqualifies him that these other people don't?
Which is wild because he's the most agreeable one in the group. Like he's the only one that doesn't argue.
You have to consider. A lot of people in that house know that he voted to keep Zay. So
yeah,
you got to factor that in.
That continues to persist. This misunderstanding that I believe stems from Will is continuing to persist. And again, it doesn't matter to anybody about Keanu, whether they believe him or not. But especially as Riley's stock is falling, they almost enjoy the idea that Riley might have lied and therefore have a reason to be mad at him.
Yeah. Well, this group is fun. I found just the open sparring kind of fun, where like clearly people wanted different things to happen. And I think what's interesting is like Jimmy plays the role of like moderator, mediator, whatever you want to say. Like he's kind of running the meeting, and he's by far, the target number 1 of the people in that room.
Yeah. Jimmy is on board with taking out, as we talked about, Adrian, but he is not super pushing in the way that Morgan is. Rachel makes a couple of points. Rachel actually doesn't push that hard generally. She just makes points that people do tend to listen to. I mean, she managed to convince Jimmy. She's given Morgan a lot of ammunition, but despite not pushing very hard, a lot of blame is still falling on her because after, Morgan leaves, Zach feels like, oh man, Rachel's the one getting in her head. And that's why Morgan feels this way. But basically, the point is that they're very much not on the same page. Also, though, important to note, Jimmy has been informed that Keanu is running around saying that he controlled the HOH this week. And he is very much on board with making sure that Keanu leaves next week.
I thought Morgan had a good quip where she was like, yeah, I think Keanu thinks he cast the show as well. He's responsible for everything. Rachel not pushing for Amy's smart. Like the more Rachel pushes, that is a reason to get rid of Amy. So like, I agree with Rachel there. I think there's 2 parts. First part is like, she knows she's campaigning to people who don't want to keep Amy, so just don't push too hard. It's sketchy. And then the other side of the whole equation is like, Rachel's had to coach up Amy to not quit, but like to get up and campaign and get out there and pick your head up and all these things. And she's did it over and over and over. And I think Rachel is in some ways just frustrated with Amy being like, I don't care anymore. And in other ways, just losing hope that they can keep her.
I mean, I think that Rachel's campaign has been more effective than Morgan's. I think Rachel has managed to turn a couple of people. Again, it's like it's not this overwhelming like desperation that Morgan seems to have, but instead just like key careful points being made. The problem is that people are so walls up with Rachel that even that feels like a barrage. And so it's just not likely to work at this point. Rachel does have a conversation with Adrian where they kind of talk about like, oh, I thought you were kind of coming after me. And oh, well, I thought you didn't want to talk to me. And it's like, well, both are true. And Adrian kind of says to Rachel, like, honestly, every time you talk to me, it feels like an interview.
Okay, it's good to break down walls. If you feel like there's a barrier there, talk about that barrier. Maybe we can get rid of the barrier. I think this was like Adrian's worst campaign, and it wasn't even close. Fortunately, it's not the most important campaign because she's one of the people more set on keeping Amy. But like, he starts it off saying, here's the thing, Rachel, I hate liars. Not that you're a liar, but I do hate them. I'm like, okay, that's weird. And then he says, I'm not going to put you up next week. I don't know how long I can promise to not put you up after that. But next week, I'm not even considering you next week. And I'm just like, Adrian, what the hell are you doing? What is this pitch? You just do your Mickey pitch again. Like, this is so bad. Honestly, it feels like he's being interviewed and he's nervous.
He's too honest. Lying doesn't come naturally to Adrian. That's the problem.
Okay. I've this entire season, I've been very low on Adrian. Like, if you're not going to flip the switch and start campaigning when you're on the block, you never will. He's flipped it a little bit. I feel like he's done a great job of laying the groundwork of being a loyal, integrity-filled dude. Everyone's bringing it up all the time. My question to you, Taran, is he that?
I think he is. Yeah, I think that's the problem.
Which is why? It's crazy. What is this archetype? Where'd they find him? I don't understand. Like, he's the super fan who built a wall in his backyard, but like the loyalty super fan, that doesn't make any sense to me. I thought he was putting up a front, and like, not that he was going to be Dan Giesling and do the funeral and do all these crazy things, but that like his strategy was essentially Kevin Jacobs make people think he's a totally different person, different player than he actually is. And maybe if he wins HOH, he'll have the opportunity to do something. Again, I'm saying it out loud. It is just fan fiction.
Yeah, I mean, you never know honestly, I think the most like loyal players are often the ones that end up betraying their friends the most, like when it counts. But I think, yeah, for the time being, he very much is just going to find a group that he feels like he can talk to, that he feels like he wants to work with, and he's just going to ride with them for a while.
Look, what he needs is this Lauren and Catherine, Keanu and Kelly thing to happen, because he actually is good with Kelly. Like, that's like probably his biggest connection there. Him and Keanu. Keanu feels good about Adrian. Like, that really is his group and his path. But it's not like he's going to do anything about it. So, like, hopefully it can work out for Adrian. I still am rooting for him over someone like Amy and Will, because he's doing more, which is kind of crazy, but he still is doing more.
He should just start winning comps, I think. Like, people already think he will, so not winning is not going to help his case that much. And being able to start dictating who's leaving and keeping some of the people who do want him around safe, I think is going to be just really massive for him. On top of the fact that it will give him a little more space to like socially exist. Yeah.
He could survive for a while. Like, there's a lot of people. Like, if he survives this week, could he be a perpetual pawn? Yes. I think there's more delicious, like, pawns there, Keanu and Kelly. I think he could be in for, like, at least another 3-4 weeks hanging out, even if he keeps doing what he's doing. It's just, the problem is, if he's on the block after the blockbuster, he's always going to be a tempting target. And he's already lost so many layers of protection this week. Like, one outcome, he is out of the house. The correct outcome, he could be here for 5 weeks.
Yeah. That's most of the day, I think. Cory, was there anything else that you wanted to bring up?
Yeah, the Zach and Ashley thing, just to stop down in it for a while. Like, Morgan comes in. All right, let me frame this through the perspective of Morgan, actually. Morgan needs to chill, because Morgan is way too see-through with what she's trying to do. She's going to Vince and Zach, who are like, I think Ashley's going to target us. And Morgan's like, yeah, but I wouldn't worry about that. And it's like, what do you mean they shouldn't worry about that? And she's also the only one campaigning for Amy, who obviously keeping Amy is not good for Zach or Vince. And she's lucky that when she leaves, they look at each other and say, look what Ashley's trying to stir up. Which Ashley is not capable of stirring anything up. So it's like, eventually, I would hope Zach and Vince realize that, like, Morgan at the very least is just playing self-interestedly. But right now they just, especially Zach, is just so anti-Ashley, and Vince is right behind him that, like, I think Morgan's more protected than she should be with how she's acting.
I'm telling you, it's like every single person in this house has like thinks that they know everything. I think like everybody operates as though they already have all of the information, and anytime they get new information, if it doesn't fit into their pre-existing notions, they disregard it. And if it does, they go, "Oh, I knew Ashley was doing that." And it's the same with Zach. It's the same with Vince. It's the same with Morgan in this conversation. Like, I think in Morgan's mind, she's like, they're just trying to convince me somehow to not take out Adrian with what they're saying. So I'm not going to let them trick me. And I'm going to ignore this. And they're thinking she's just trying to convince us to take out Adrian. So whatever she says, we're going to ignore because it doesn't matter. And focus on Ashley. And it's just like, and of course the Keanu thing and the Mickey thing right now. And it's so wild how fully inflexible all of these players are.
Yeah, I mean, my final point is just on Lauren. I think she's doing really well. You know, as Catherine's stock is falling, it's not like Lauren's rising a ton, but I feel like she's pretty well connected on both sides of the house. Both sides just genuinely like her, which is such a good foundation for playing Big Brother, people liking you. And we think she's a relatively capable game player, kind of like Vince, where she's not great at talking strategy, but she's clearly like a smart person and she's kind of heading in the right direction. So like nothing crazy happened today. I would just keep my eye out for Lauren because, you know, I like what she was doing.
Yeah, I mean, I would be a little concerned about her, like just taking a stray shot if somebody's going after Catherine right now. But, you know, she's currently not actively doing herself harm, which is more than you can say for a lot of people.
10 on the stock watch, Taran. She's killing it.
All right. Well, that is the update today then. But we do have some fun things coming up. I talked at the start of this podcast, there was some news about Big Brother Unlocked, but you may be asking, well, what kind of coverage? If Big Brother Unlocked is like the sports center for Big Brother, how do we recap the sports center? What kind of coverage will we do? And to answer that question, I'm going to show you another poster. It's Big Brother Unlocked. Cory.
Yeah, this is something. Look, I've grown up watching RHAP recaps of the recaps. So it's truly an honor to be able to do this alongside America. We're always going to have a rotating guest as well, because the whole pitch of this Big Brother Unlocked thing was 3 hosts in this panel of Big Brother alumni, and then they randomly went down to 2, and maybe there's going to be guests, but we're going to have a different guest every week. We've got our week 1 guest booked. I think y'all will be very excited to see who that is. But in general, I mean, Taran, the way you pitched it, I'm almost concerned. Who would watch a podcast about SportsCenter? Yeah, Van Gundy killed it there. Well, but
listen, basically the concept of this was like, we heard about the every other Friday episodes, and we were like, well, that's going to be terrible. And then it was like, what if we came up with our own? What if Cory and America host their own version of this? Turns out we nailed it. Two permanent co-hosts with some revolving door guests. But then all of a sudden, like, it's Taylor and she's saying it's going to be good. And so now, listen, Cory, the pressure's on. You really got to nail it.
The way I would think about it if I'm a viewer is, what if the roundtable had less analysis? I think that is what we're aiming Big Brother Unlocked to be. Because at the end of the day, if they're recapping the week, we'll probably just be recapping the week too. Maybe with some classic Derek Levasseur quips every now and then. So that's our plan. I'm super excited. I know America is as well. And I hope you all tune in.
Yes. Something else I think that's interesting that Taylor talked about with me was that they are actually very open to feedback for that show. So an analysis of their show could actually then have an impact on their show. So this
It
could
actually
be
has
important.
It's got nothing to do with Big Brother. It's just programming notes for Derek and Taylor. I'm just gonna be forming my list, all my complaints. What I'm really gonna be doing is just asking the people who we thought would be picked for Big Brother Unlocked for the actual panel, and then just seeing like, why don't you think they picked you?
All right. All right. Why didn't you get the ask for this one, actually?
Kind of weird. So Jag, we all figured you'd be on the panel. What's going on? I want to start some fireworks. Tune in, episode 1, Friday.
Man, how did your life change? I'm going to say for the worse when you weren't invited into the Big Brother Unlocked official show.
Exactly. And I will say, if America and I are ever the guest on Big Brother Unlocked, we will decline to fulfill our duties on Big Brother Unlocked. So have no fear.
Yeah, you got to go promote Big Brother Unlocked on Big Brother Unlocked.
And Taran, if you would like, I'm open to the idea of you running Big Brother Unlocked. But only if you want.
Okay. All right. We'll think about it. So tune in on Friday after Big Brother Unlocked for Big Brother Unlocked. And we'll see how unlocked we can get. That is going on Friday. Tonight, I will, of course, be streaming the episode over on Twitch and YouTube. We will also be back with a recap to talk through tonight's episode. And we have some more fun news. Joining us for the recap tonight, Chelsea from last season will be joining us. So we'll get her thoughts on this messy house so far. And then, of course, I'll be back tomorrow morning updating you on everything that happens today on the Big Brother 27 live feeds. And then we'll, of course, also have a recap for the eviction tomorrow night. So many cool things coming up this week. Make sure you tune in to all of it. And also make sure you check out my book, Behind the Mirror. It's available for pre-order over at taranarmstrong.com. Check all of that out. Anything else, Cory?
Not too much. Check me out, twitch.tv/Cory Wurtenberger, patreon.com/AmeriCory, and this little place called RHAP for my new podcast.
All right, there you go. Thank you all so much for joining us here today, and I will see all of you next time.
This is RHAP. We know reality TV.